The crowd screamed, "Thief! Thief! Catch her!" A slim figure in a dark hoodie ran like the wind through the busy streets of Lagos, her heart pounding like a drum. Cars honked wildly, traders shouted, people jumped out of the way. Behind her, armed guards and police officers chased with anger in their eyes. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Not when her little brother was lying at home burning with fever. Not when the landlord had already given her 3 days to pay rent. Not when hunger had become their daily visitor. She turned sharply into the road. Bam! A black luxury car hit her. Everything went silent. The same girl who stole to survive now lay bleeding on the hot Lagos road. And the man who stepped out of the car? He was the one she had robbed days ago. Their worlds were never meant to meet, but fate had other plans. The sun had not even fully risen over Makoko, yet the noise had already begun. Water splashed against broken wooden stilts, children ran barefoot on narrow planks, women shouted prices across the floating market. The smell of fish, smoke, and muddy water filled the air. In the middle of it all lived a girl named Lina. Lina was 19 years old, slim and beautiful, with bright eyes that once carried big dreams. But now those dreams were hidden behind worry. She lived in a small, weak wooden house that leaned slightly to one side, as if it could fall at any moment. Inside that room were her whole world, her 2 younger brothers. "Lina," a weak voice called. She quickly turned. It was Noah, her 12-year-old brother. His body was thin, his face pale, and sweat covered his forehead. He was lying on a worn-out mattress, breathing slowly. "I'm here," Lina said softly, rushing to his side. She placed her hand on his forehead, and her heart dropped. He was burning. "Tom!" she called. A small boy of 10 ran in quickly. This was Tom, the youngest. His clothes were old, but his eyes were full of life. "Bring the water," Lina said. Tom rushed to bring a small bowl. Lina gently used a cloth to wipe Noah's face. "It's getting worse," she whispered to herself, but she forced a smile. "You'll be fine," she told Noah. "I'll get your medicine today, I promise." Noah gave a weak nod. Lina stood up, picked up a small tray filled with sachet water, and balanced it on her head. "I'll be back soon," she told Tom. "Take care of him." Tom nodded. "Be careful, Lina." She smiled and stepped out. The streets were already busy. "Pure water! Cold pure water!" Lina shouted as she walked under the hot sun. People passed her. Some bought, many ignored her. After hours of walking, shouting, and sweating, she finally sat down to count her money. She sighed. It was barely enough, and she still had to pay the man who gave her the water to sell. Tears almost came to her eyes, but she wiped them quickly. "No, I can't cry," she said quietly. The next day, she tried selling fruits. "Fresh oranges, sweet bananas," she called out. But it was worse. Men called her over, smiling in ways that made her uncomfortable. "Come closer, fine girl," one said. "I'll buy everything if you smile for me." Lina stepped back. "No, sir." The man laughed. "Ha ha, then go. I don't want again." Hours passed. The fruits began to spoil under the sun. At the end of the day, she threw some away. Her hands shook. Another day, she pushed a wheelbarrow in the market, helping people carry loads. "I will pay you later," one woman said after Lina helped her. But she never did. Another man argued. "This is too much. Take half." "But we agreed." Lina tried to speak. "Take it or leave it," he snapped. She took it, because she had no choice. That night, Lina returned home. She opened the door slowly. Tom looked up at her. "Did you get the medicine?" he asked. Lina froze. She slowly shook her head. Tom's face fell. Lina walked to Noah. His breathing was worse now. Her chest tightened. She sat beside him and held his hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm trying. I'm really trying." Suddenly, Noah began to cough badly. His body shook. "Lina!" he gasped. Fear rushed through her like cold water. "Noah, stay with me!" Tom started crying. "He's dying!" "No," Lina shouted. "He won't die." But deep inside, she was scared. Very scared. That night, Lina stepped outside alone. The moon reflected on the dark water. Her hands were shaking. "I need money, now," she whispered. She thought of neighbors. They had nothing. She thought of friends. They were also struggling. Then, a name came to her mind. A name everyone feared. A man who helped people, but at a cost. Lina swallowed hard. Her heart beat faster. "No," she said softly. But then she remembered Noah's face, his weak voice, his burning body. Her fists tightened. "I have no choice." She turned slowly and began to walk into the darkness, towards the man who would change her life forever. That night, the air in Makoko felt heavier than usual. Lina walked slowly, her heart beating fast with every step she took. The wooden paths creaked beneath her feet as she moved deeper into the darker part of the slum, an area people avoided, an area where Rex lived. Everyone knew Rex. No one spoke his name loudly. He was the man people ran to when they had no hope, and the same man they feared when they couldn't pay him back. Lina stopped in front of a small building, surrounded by quiet, watchful boys. "Who are you?" one of them asked sharply. I need to see Rex." Lina tried to stay strong. The boy looked at her for a moment, then went inside. A few seconds later, he returned. "Go in." Inside, the room was dim. A single bulb hung from the ceiling. And there he was, Rex. He sat calmly, like a king on a broken chair. His eyes were cold. His presence alone made Lina's body tense. "So," he said slowly, "what does a fine girl like you want here?" Lina swallowed hard. "My brother, he's sick, very sick. I need money for his treatment." Rex leaned back, studying her. "And you will pay me back? How?" Lina hesitated. She had no answer. Rex smiled slightly. "That's what I thought." Tears filled her eyes, but she stood her ground. "Please, I'll do anything." The room went quiet. Rex leaned forward. "Anything." Lina nodded slowly. Rex pointed to the door. "Come." Outside, 3 boys stood waiting. "This is your new family," Rex said. Lina looked at them. The first boy was chubby, with a wide smile. "I'm Benny," he said cheerfully. The second was slim, quick-eyed, always moving. "Call me Jace," he said. The third stood silently, tall, muscular, serious. His eyes were sharp, dangerous. "I'm Blade," he said coldly. Rex turned to Lina. "You will work with them. You will steal. You will bring money to me until your debt is paid." Lina's heart dropped. "Steal?" Blade stepped forward. "You heard him." Lina shook her head slightly. I don't steal." Rex's smile disappeared. "Then your brother dies." Silence. Heavy silence. Lina closed her eyes. A tear fell. "I'll do it," she whispered. Rex went back inside with her and opened a drawer beside him and dropped a bundle of cash on the table. "Take this," he said. "Save your brother. But remember, nothing is free." Lina stared at the money. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. It felt like hope. It felt like guilt. It felt like survival. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. "Thank you," she whispered. Rex said nothing. She turned and ran. She ran through the wooden paths of Makoko, past tired mothers cooking outside, past children playing barefoot in dirty water, past old men sitting in silence. She held the money tightly to her chest. When she reached home, Tom was still beside Noah, pressing a wet cloth against his forehead. Tom looked up. "Lina?" She dropped to her knees. "I got help." Tom looked confused, then shocked when he saw the money. "Where did you get this?" Lina looked away. "It doesn't matter right now." That same night, she found a local nurse willing to come. The woman arrived carrying a small medical bag and a tired expression. She checked Noah quickly. His fever was high. His body was weak. His breathing was uneven. "This should have been treated earlier," the nurse said. Lina lowered her eyes. "I know. Please help him." The nurse nodded. She prepared an injection, then medicine. Then she carefully set up an IV drip beside Noah's bed, hanging it from a weak nail on the wooden wall. Tom stood silently. Lina stood beside him, praying with every breath. Please, please let him be okay. The nurse stayed through the night. She gave first aid. She checked his temperature again and again. Slowly, the fever began to reduce, and by morning, Noah opened his eyes. Weakly, slowly, but he opened them. "Big sis," he whispered. Lina burst into tears. She grabbed his hand tightly. "I'm here. I'm here." Tom turned away, wiping his eyes. For the first time in days, there was hope. The next day, Noah was still weak, but better. He could drink water, he could smile a little, and that was enough. That was everything. But Lina knew the truth. Hope had a price, and she had already agreed to pay it. The next day, her training began. At first, Lina was nervous. Her hands shook, her heart raced. But Jace showed her quickly. "Don't think too much," he said. "Just move fast." Benny laughed. "And smile. People trust a smiling face." Blade watched her closely. "No mistakes," he warned. Soon, Lina followed them into the busy streets. Crowds everywhere, noise everywhere. Perfect. "Watch," Jace whispered. In seconds, he slipped a phone out of a man's pocket. The man didn't even notice. "Now you try," Blade said. Her hands trembled as she walked toward a woman. She pretended to adjust her shoe. Her fingers slowly moved and... she got it! A small purse. She stepped away quickly. Her heart was pounding like a drum. "I did it!" she whispered. Benny grinned. "Welcome to the game." Days turned to weeks. Lina improved. Fast. Very fast. She learned how to distract people with simple conversations. "How much is that?" she would ask. "Excuse me, do you know the time?" While they answered, the others worked. They became smooth, perfect, like a machine. Sometimes they created fake fights. "Leave me alone," Benny would shout. People gathered, eyes turned, and in those moments, phones disappeared, money vanished, jewelry gone. But Lina was different. At night, she returned home with food. She cooked, she fed Tom, she bought medicine for Noah, and slowly, Noah began to get better. Tom smiled again one night. "Thank you, Lina," he said. Lina smiled softly. "It's okay." And sometimes she gave food to street beggars. Children ran to her happily. "Lina is here!" She laughed with them, shared what little she had. Even in darkness, her heart still shined. There was also an old woman named Mama Ruth. Lina often visited her. "You are a good girl," Mama Ruth said one day, "but this path, it is dangerous." Lina looked down. "I know." "Then leave it." Lina stayed silent. "I will," she said softly, but deep inside, she knew she couldn't. Not yet. Lina stood one evening, looking at her reflection in dirty water. She barely recognized herself. Faster, sharper, colder, but her eyes still held something soft, something human, something good. But she didn't know that very soon her path was about to cross with someone who would change everything.
Are you enjoying Lina's journey so far? The creators of this channel work day and night to bring you the best stories. So please, take a moment, subscribe to Folktales with Oni, turn on the notification bell, and like the video if you're enjoying the story. We really appreciate your support. Now, let's go on with the story.
The airport was alive with noise. Cameras flashed, voices shouted, luxury cars lined up like a parade. And in the middle of it all stood Adrian Cole. Tall, calm, confident. At just 23 years old, Adrian had already achieved what many only dreamed of. He had just returned from Canada, graduating at the top of his class. As he stepped out, his mother rushed forward with a bright smile. "My son," she said, pulling him into a warm hug. His father followed, placing a proud hand on his shoulder. "You've made us proud, Adrian." Adrian smiled gently. "Thank you." Behind them, security men stood alert. Black SUVs waited, engines running. Everything about his life screamed power. But Adrian, he was quiet, observing, thinking. Later that evening, their mansion in Lekki was filled with music and laughter. The lights sparkled like stars. Expensive cars filled the compound. Important guests walked around with glasses in their hands. "This is for you," his mother said proudly. "A welcome party." Adrian nodded politely, but his eyes moved around the room. He noticed the workers, the waiters moving quickly, the security guards standing for hours. While others laughed, they worked. Adrian walked to a waiter carrying drinks. "Are you okay?" he asked. The young man looked shocked. "Sir? You've been standing long. Take a short rest." The waiter smiled nervously. "Thank you, sir." Across the room, his mother watched. She smiled, but also shook her head slightly. Adrian was different. As the night went on, more people came to greet him. "You're a brilliant young man, the future of Lagos. We've heard so much about you." Adrian smiled, shook hands, said thank you. But inside, he felt tired. Then she arrived. Vanessa Hale. The room almost shifted. She walked in like she owned the place. Her dress sparkled. Her head was high. "Adrian," she said, smiling. "Vanessa," Adrian replied, politely. Their parents watched closely. This was important. Very important. They sat together. At first, everything seemed normal. "How was Canada?" she asked. "Cold," Adrian said with a small smile. She laughed. But then, a waiter accidentally brushed her chair. "Watch it," Vanessa snapped. The waiter quickly bowed. "I'm sorry, ma." "Sorry?" She cut him off. "Do you know how much this dress costs? Wretched fool, get out of here." The waiter lowered his head and left. Adrian watched silently. Vanessa turned back to him, smiling again, like nothing happened. So, where were we? But something had already changed. Adrian leaned back slightly, watching her, understanding her. Later that night, Adrian stood alone on the balcony. The noise of the party was far behind him. The city lights of Lagos stretched endlessly before his eyes. His father joined him. "She's perfect," his father said. "Vanessa." Adrian didn't reply. "This marriage will strengthen everything. Business, politics, power." Adrian finally spoke. "And what about happiness?" His father paused, then gave a small laugh. "Happiness comes later." Adrian looked back at the city, but his face showed something else. Doubt. Days passed. Adrian took over the family company. Meetings, decisions, plans. He handled everything smoothly. Workers respected him. Even the older managers were impressed. "He's different," they whispered, and they were right. But outside work, it was always the same. One afternoon at the golf course, as Adrian lined up a putt, a cheerful voice interrupted him. "Nice shot!" He looked up. A beautiful woman smiled as she rested on her golf club. "I don't think I've seen you here before." "I come here once in a while," Adrian replied. "Well, I hope I'll be seeing you more often." He smiled politely, wished her good game, and walked to the next hole. A few days later, at a beach resort, he was watching the sunset when a woman settled onto the lounge chair beside him. "Beautiful evening, isn't it?" "It is," Adrian answered. She glanced at his luxury watch and then back at him. "So, are you alone?" "Yes." She smiled. "That can be fixed." Adrian gave a courteous smile. "I appreciate that, but I'm fine. Enjoy your evening." He stood up and left. Different places, different faces. The conversations always began differently, but they all ended the same. Before long, Adrian could sense what had drawn them. It wasn't him. It was the wealth, the success, and the life everyone could see. So he never let any of those conversations go any further. Because he wasn't searching for attention, he was waiting for something genuine. One afternoon, Adrian stood beside his car. His driver opened the door. "Where to, sir?" Adrian paused. Then he shook his head. "Not today." "Sir?" "I'll drive myself." The driver looked confused. "But your security?" "I'll be fine," Adrian said calmly. For the first time in a long while, he wanted to breathe, to feel normal, to see life without glass and gold. As he drove out alone, the busy streets of Lagos welcomed him. No escorts, no noise, just him and the city. He didn't know where he was going, but it felt right. And somewhere in that same city, Lina and her crew were preparing for another operation, another target, another day of survival. Two different worlds, one of wealth, one of struggle, moving closer, closer, to a moment that would change everything. The supermarket was full. Very full. People pushed carts, children ran around, workers arranged items on shelves. The sound of voices, movement, and machines filled the air. But hidden inside that normal day, something else was happening. Lina and her crew had arrived. They stood outside first, watching, studying, planning. Blade spoke in a low voice. Same pattern, no mistakes. Jace nodded, his sharp eyes scanning the entrance. Cameras at the corners, 2 guards inside. Benny smiled and plenty of rich customers. Lina said nothing. She simply watched, focused, calm. "Positions," Blade ordered, and just like that, they moved. Inside the supermarket, everything looked normal, but it wasn't. Jace walked slowly near the entrance, pretending to check his phone. Benny pushed a trolley, humming softly like a regular shopper. Blade stood far back, watching everything like a hawk. And Lina walked in like she belonged there. Quiet, smooth, invisible. At that same moment, a black SUV pulled up outside. Adrian stepped out. No guards, no noise, just him. He looked around briefly, then walked into the store. For once, he felt normal. Inside, Adrian picked up a few items. Bread, juice, simple things. No one paid him special attention. And for the first time in a long time, he liked it. Then Lina saw him. At first, he was just another target. Clean clothes, calm movement, expensive watch. easy. But as she looked closer, something felt different. Still, work was work. She walked toward him. "Excuse me," Lina said gently. Adrian turned. Their eyes met. For a second, everything slowed down. "Yes," Adrian replied. "I'm trying to find the cereal section. Do you know where it is?" Adrian glanced around. "I think it's over there." "Can you show me?" she asked, smiling slightly. Adrian hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." They walked together. "You don't look like someone who shops here often," Lina said casually. Adrian smiled. "Is it that obvious?" "A little," she said. "What about you?" he asked. "I come here sometimes." Not a lie, not the full truth. Behind them, Jace was already moving. Benny bumped lightly into another shopper, creating a small distraction. Sorry, he said loudly. People turned, eyes shifted. Blade watched everything. Timing, perfect timing. Back with Adrian, Lina slowed her steps. "You seem different," she said. Adrian looked at her, slightly surprised. "Different?" "Yeah," she said. "Calm. Most people rush." Adrian gave a small laugh. "Maybe I just like quiet." Lina nodded, and in that moment, her hand moved. Light, fast, silent. Her phone slipped out of his pocket. Gone. But she didn't stop. A second move, even smoother. His wallet, gone. Adrian kept talking, unaware, completely unaware. "Here," he said, pointing. "Cereal." Lina smiled. "Thank you." She paused for a second, looking at him, almost like she wanted to say something more. But she didn't. She turned and walked away. Within seconds, she disappeared into the crowd. Jace passed her. Quick glance. Mission done. Benny joined. Blade followed. And just like that, they were gone. Minutes later, Adrian reached for his pocket. He froze. Checked again. Nothing. His other pocket. Nothing. His face changed. Confusion. Then shock. No way. He rushed to a nearby staff member. "Can I use your phone?" The worker nodded quickly. Adrian dialed his number. It rang. Outside the store, Lina walked quickly through the busy street. The phone rang in her hand. She looked at it, paused, then answered. "Hello," Adrian said. There was silence for a second. Then, "I'm sorry." Adrian froze. It was her voice. "You," he said, shocked. "I took your phone and your wallet." Adrian's grip tightened. "Why?" There was a small pause. Then she spoke softly. "You can afford another one, but I can't afford to lose what this money will do." Adrian didn't speak. He couldn't. "I'll leave your SIM card somewhere safe. You won't lose your contacts." Then the call ended. Adrian stood there, silent, thinking. Later that evening, he drove to the location she'd described in a text message she sent before turning off the phone completely. A quiet corner, near an old wall. He stepped out, looked around, then saw it, a small object on the ground. He walked closer, his SIM card, and beside it, a folded piece of paper. He picked it up, opened it, 2 simple words. "I'm sorry." Adrian stood there for a long time. The city moved around him. Cars passed, people walked, life continued. But inside him, something had changed. For the first time in his life, he didn't just want his phone back. He looked into the distance. He wanted to find her. The night air in Makoko was thick and heavy. Lina and her crew sat together in a quiet corner behind an old wooden building. A dim lantern flickered between them as they counted the cash from the supermarket job. They had already sold all the stolen goods through contacts in the black market in Ikorodu, and now they were dividing the proceeds of the successful operation. Benny whistled. "This one's sweet though. We don't try today." Jay screamed. "That man no even know what's in hit him." Blade said nothing. He simply stretched his hand forward. "Bring it." Slowly, they pushed the money toward him. Lina watched quietly. She already knew what would happen next. A few minutes later, they stood in front of Rex. The same cold room, the same silence. Blade handed over the money. Rex counted it slowly, then smiled. "Good," he said. But then, he pushed a small part back to them. Very small. Benny's smile faded. "My Oga, now only this one you want us to share use whole body?" Jay sighed. "After all that work." Blade shot him a sharp look. "Keep quiet." Rex leaned back. "You owe me, don't forget." Silence filled the room. Lina picked her share. It was small, too small. But she said nothing, because she had no choice. Later that night, Lina walked home. The wooden planks creaked beneath her feet. She clutched a small bag tightly. Inside were groceries and the medication she had bought from a local pharmacist for Noah. As she opened the door, "Lina!" Tom shouted excitedly. He ran over and threw his arms around her. "You're back!" Lina hugged him tightly. "Of course." She then walked over to Noah. He was sitting up, still weak, but looking much better. "Noah," she whispered, surprised. He managed a faint smile. "I feel a little better." Lina quickly knelt beside him and gently placed a hand on his face. Relief washed over her. Her eyes shimmered with joy and quiet peace. "You're going to be okay," she said with a warm smile. She immediately went to the small kitchen and prepared a steaming pot of jollof rice. There was no meat in it, but it was the best meal she could afford. That night, the three of them sat together and shared dinner. They talked, they laughed. For a brief moment, it felt as though everything was finally okay. The next morning, Lina walked through the neighborhood carrying a paper bag with 2 plates of freshly prepared jollof rice. A group of children spotted her from a distance and came running toward her. "Lina! Lina!" She smiled warmly and handed one of the plates of jollof rice to them. The children happily gathered around to share the meal, their joyful laughter echoing through the neighborhood. Nearby, an elderly woman watched quietly. "Mama Ruth," Lina greeted with a smile. Mama Ruth nodded gently. "You again." Lina smiled and handed her a small portion of food. "I brought you something." Mama Ruth accepted it with both hands. "Thank you, my child," she said warmly. "May God bless your kind heart." Lina smiled softly and sat beside her. After a brief silence, Mama Ruth's expression turned serious. "Lina, I'm still not happy that you are running with those boys." Lina lowered her eyes. "You are risking your life, stealing for Rex." Mama Ruth sighed. "Everyone in Makoko knows the kind of man he is. He's dangerous, ruthless, and he doesn't care what happens to the people who work for him." Lina remained silent. "You are a good girl," Mama Ruth continued. "This isn't the life you're meant to live. One day, someone will get hurt, and I pray it isn't you." Lina took a slow breath. "I know, Mama Ruth." "Then leave him." "I can't, not yet." Mama Ruth looked at her for a moment. "Why?" Lina hesitated before answering. "I still owe Rex a debt. Once I've paid everything I owe him, I'm leaving. I'll stop stealing and I'll never work for him again." Mama Ruth searched her face for a moment. "I hope that day comes before something terrible happens to you." Lina didn't answer. She simply stared into the distance, quietly reflecting on Mama Ruth's words. For the first time in a long while, she wondered if that terrible day was closer than she wanted to believe. Elsewhere in the city, Adrian sat alone in his room. The small piece of paper was in his hand. "I'm sorry." He stared at it again and again. He couldn't understand it. A thief who apologizes? A thief who cares? He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Lagos. "Who are you?" he whispered. Days passed, but Adrian couldn't forget her. He returned to the supermarket, walked around, watched people, hoping, but she was not there. He even asked the worker quietly, "Do you know a girl, slim, calm, talks softly, dresses in a hoodie?" The worker shook his head. "No, sir." Adrian sighed. Back in Makoko, The crew gathered once again at their usual hideout behind the old wooden building. This time, Blade's expression was different. There was no smile on his face. "I have something big," he said. Benny leaned forward. "How big?" A faint smile crossed Blade's face. "Soft Touch Jewelry Store. It's a massive jewelry store that recently opened in the heart of the city. They specialize in high-end diamond jewelry and other precious gemstones. If we pull off a successful hit there, we'll have more than enough money to pay off the boss. After that, there'll still be a substantial amount left for each of us to finally start planning our own lives." Silence filled the air. Jace frowned. "Blade, those people get heavy security, oh." Benny scratched the back of his head. "Now wahala be that if anything go wrong." Lina immediately shook her head. "No." Everyone turned to look at her. "It's too risky," she said firmly. "This isn't like the other jobs." Blade took a few steps toward her. "You dey fear?" Lina met his gaze. "No, I'm thinking." Blade's face hardened. "We need money. Big money." "We can do smaller jobs," Lina argued. "Jobs we know we can handle. We don't have to gamble our lives." Bladehead shook his head. "Small jobs no go clear our debts. This is our chance." Silence. A heavy silence settled over the group. Then, Blade spoke again. "This is the plan. We go in, grab the jewelry, and get out. Fast, clean, no mistakes." Jace exchanged nervous glances with Benny. Neither of them looked convinced. Lina's heart began to pound. The more she thought about it, the worse it felt. Something deep inside her refused to accept the plan. "Count me out," she said quietly. Blade stepped closer until he was standing right in front of her. His voice became cold. "You don't have a choice." Lina stared at him. Then, thoughts of Rex flooded her mind. The debt she still owed. Noah. Tom. Everything she was fighting for. Slowly, her hands curled into fists. "Fine," she whispered. Blade looked around at the rest of the crew. "Good." He clapped his hands once. "Everybody go house. Rest well tonight. Tomorrow morning, we hit Soft Touch Jewelry Store. Nobody should come late." One after another, the crew dispersed into the narrow wooden walkways of Makoko. Lina walked home alone. The night breeze brushed against her face, but it brought her no comfort. When she finally lay down to sleep, sleep never came. She turned from one side to the other, closed her eyes, opened them again. Her mind kept replaying the conversation. The jewelry store, the security, Blade's confidence, Rex, everything. A strange feeling settled deep inside her chest, the kind she had never felt before a job. It wasn't fear alone, it was a warning. She stared up at the ceiling as the night stretched on. Then, almost in a whisper, she said to herself, "Something is going to go wrong tomorrow." But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the feeling. The first rays of sunlight crept through the cracks in Lina's small wooden home. She hadn't slept. She lay quietly on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling as the memories of the previous night echoed through her mind. Something is going to go wrong tomorrow. The strange feeling was still there, heavy, unshakable. She slowly sat up and looked across the room. Noah was asleep. His breathing was much steadier now. Tom lay curled beside him, hugging an old pillow. A gentle smile appeared on Lina's face. Everything she had done, every terrible decision, every stolen wallet, every sleepless night, had been for them. She quietly walked over and covered Tom with a thin blanket before gently touching Noah's forehead. His fever was gone. Relief washed over her. "If I can just finish this one last job," Lina whispered, "I'll pay Rex everything I owe him. I'll never steal again. I'll find honest work. I promise. She closed her eyes for a brief moment. I just need today to end. Across Lagos, morning sunlight poured through the tall glass windows of the Cole family mansion. Adrian stood by his bedroom window holding a small folded piece of paper. I'm sorry. He had read those 2 words countless times, yet they still lingered in his mind. Who was she? Why had she apologized? Why couldn't he forget her? A gentle knock interrupted his thoughts. Come in. One of the household staff entered respectfully. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Your father asked me to remind you about today's executive meeting. He has another engagement, so you'll be representing the company. Adrian nodded. I understand. The vehicle is ready whenever you are. Thank you. The staff quietly left. Adrian slipped the folded note into his wallet. For reasons he couldn't explain, he couldn't bring himself to throw it away. A few minutes later, his black SUV rolled out through the mansion gates and disappeared into the busy streets of Lagos. He had no idea that fate was already waiting for him. Back in Makoko, Blade stood with folded arms underneath an old wooden shelter. Benny and Jace arrived moments later. Neither looked relaxed. Then Lina appeared. No one spoke. The seriousness on everyone's face said enough. Blade finally broke the silence. Today changes everything. He looked at each of them. We go in, we take the diamonds, we get out. Simple. No one answered. Even Benny, usually the first to joke, remained silent. Blade looked toward the city. Let's move. Less than an hour later, Soft Touch Jewelry Store came into view. Its glass walls sparkled beneath the morning sun. Luxury cars filled the parking lot. Well-dressed customers walked in and out. Armed security officers guarded every entrance. Inside, elegant glass display cases stretched across the showroom. Diamonds shimmered beneath bright lights. Gold necklaces, luxury watches, rare gemstones. Everything inside was worth millions. Blade quietly studied the building. 4 guards. Jace nodded. Cameras at every corner. Benny swallowed nervously. This place no be beans. Lina remained silent. Her eyes carefully followed the movement of each security camera. Left, pause, right, pause. That was it, the blind spot. Blade gave a small nod. Now, one after another, they entered, each pretending to be ordinary customers. Benny admired expensive watches. Jace wandered toward another display. Blade casually examined diamond rings. Lina moved slowly through the showroom. No sudden movements, no panic, only patience. Several minutes passed. The cameras continued their predictable sweep. Left, right, pause. That was it, the blind spot. Blade glanced at the team one last time before giving a subtle hand signal. Without hesitation, the operation began. Jace unlocked a display with a concealed tool. Blade swiftly swept handfuls of diamond jewelry into a hidden bag. Lina emptied another display case with astonishing speed. Benny grabbed luxury watches from another section. Customers remained completely unaware. For several seconds, the operation was perfect. Then, Benny hurried toward the next display. His shoulder accidentally struck a polished security pedestal. A red beam flashed. Beep, beep, beep. The showroom exploded into chaos. Security! Stop them! Customers screamed. People scattered in every direction. Armed guards rushed forward. Drop the bags! Blade didn't hesitate. Run! The crew sprinted. Jace shoved open a side passage. Benny followed. Security closed in behind them. Lina glanced back. Too many. Without thinking, She pushed with all her strength against a massive glass jewelry display. Crash! The enormous display tipped over, glass shattered across the floor, expensive jewelry scattered everywhere. The heavy display crashed directly into the path of the pursuing guards. Move it! Lift it! It's blocking us! The delay was enough. Go! Lina shouted. Jace looked back. What about you? I'll distract them. Lina! Go! There was no time to argue. Jace grabbed Benny. The two disappeared through another exit. Blade was already gone. Lina turned and ran. She burst through the front entrance. Morning traffic filled the streets. Behind her, there she is! Stop her! Security officers charged after her. Inside the store, one frightened employee grabbed the emergency phone. We've been robbed! The call reached the police within moments. Lina ran harder. Her lungs burned. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. People turned, pointing. Thief! Catch her! Within minutes, police vehicles arrived with sirens blaring. Officers jumped out. There! Don't let her escape! Now, it wasn't only security chasing her. Police officers joined the pursuit. The streets erupted into chaos. Cars honked wildly. Street traders pulled their goods aside. Pedestrians scattered. Some joined the chase. Others simply watched. Lina didn't stop. She couldn't. Not now. Not after everything. She darted between moving vehicles, leapt over roadside barriers, turned sharply into another street. Her breathing grew heavier. Her vision blurred. One more turn. Just one. Rounding the corner, bang! A black SUV slammed into her. Time seemed to stop. Her body lifted into the air before crashing onto the hot Lagos road. Silence. The crowd gasped. The police froze. Even the security guards stopped running. Blood slowly spread across the pavement. The driver of the SUV immediately slammed on the brakes. The door flew open. Adrian jumped out. Oh my God! He rushed toward the injured woman. People gathered around. Someone whispered, "She's dead." Another shook his head. "I don't know." Adrian knelt beside her trembling body. Carefully, gently, he turned her face toward him. His eyes widened. His breathing stopped. "You!" It was her, the girl in the supermarket, the girl he had searched for, the girl who stole his phone and apologized. Police officers quickly surrounded them. "Stand back, sir." One officer reached for Lina, but Adrian couldn't move. He simply stared at her, as if he couldn't believe fate had brought them together again. Lina's world was fading. The voices around her became distant. Everything grew darker. So, this is how it ends. Images flashed through her mind. Tom's smile, Noah calling her name, Mama Ruth's warning. One day, someone will get hurt. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm sorry. Noah, Tom, please, forgive me." Darkness slowly swallowed everything, and then she closed her eyes. To be continued.
Thank you so much for watching part 1 of this story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Folktales with Oni, so you don't miss part 2, coming very soon. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you watching from? What lesson did you learn from Lina's story? What do you think will happen next? Thank you for your incredible support, and I'll see you in part 2.